Welcome to Media Culture and Why We Feel Like Crying So Much.
Each week, we analyze everyday media objects like TikToks, reality TV shows, songs, films, and more.
We hope to offer profound insights into our shared reality. I'm Stefanie Chae.
And I'm Grant Lattanzi.
I was super excited to record today because I have obsessively been on TikTok the past week. And when we are recording this in October. Halloween is this coming weekend. My TikTok feed is literally all Christmas videos.
Really?
Yeah, like what to put on your Christmas wish list, what to get for your boyfriend, what to get for the working 9-to-5 girl, what to get for the soft girl, which I didn't even know that was a term. Girl. Yeah, I still have no idea what that means. But I've gotten that like 5 times on my feed so far, and it's all like neutral luxury items. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I still have no idea what this is, but I get the vibe. I know a lot of stores, like especially right now, if you walk into Target, they're currently switching out from Halloween to Christmas. On TikTok, I am also seeing people showing the latest things at Target. So like, oh, new Christmas things at Target, or even Anthropologie. It's like, oh, look at all these items that are perfect for Christmas. We are still in October.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so far away. And I think Christmas creep is something that's a term, right?
Yes.
But I've always wondered, like, is it just us, that the people that are like, oh, this happens every year earlier and earlier? Or is it actually getting earlier?
I feel like it's happening earlier.
Yeah.
We saw it with fall. The pumpkin spice lattes drop now at the end of August. And I think it used to be in like September and stuff like that. I mean, I've also been in a big winter mood this entire year. I think it's because the weather dropped from summer to like 30 degrees for a week and then it went back up. But I don't know, walking into a store and then seeing winter things, my brain has completely shifted to it is December.
It's weird because if I were to go off looking around, like let's say I wake up from a coma, don't know what day it is, don't know what time of the year it is. Personally, the first thing I would check, other than asking someone, is I would check my phone or a digital device to figure out when it is. So it's interesting that for you, that would suggest the same thing as sort of what you're seeing in stores, like it's around the holidays, I guess. Whereas for me, I don't know that I see much about the holidays or like Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, but I would walk into a store and be like, okay, like that, I get that's a reasonable conclusion someone could draw. But we know as people that live in this country, this world, this material environment, we know that just because the objects for a season or a time of year are available in stores doesn't mean that it's that time of year. Yes. But it does create a weird feeling.
Yes.
Like an out of time type thing. It's also weird having, like, especially with Christmas in America, having one day that's so built up to and awaited. I can't wait to talk about holidays and holiday media. I love the routine listening of Christmas music. It's so interesting. Routine. I say routine. It's a ritual. It's what it is.
This is separate from media practices of like, I know my mom always asks me, like, what do you want for Christmas? And I'm like, I don't know. But then now with TikTok, I can go on and be like, oh, I'm looking at somebody else's wish list. Maybe I should add some of those things to mine. Or like, oh, what should I add for my wish list? And it's very centered around let's buy things. And let's buy things to get into the mood of Christmas.
I think that let's buy things is going to be sort of at the central of what we're talking about. Because you're right. In all of these instances, it has to do with being a customer of a company and purchasing a product. And it might not be for you. And it might be a way that you express your feelings for another person. Or like a weird thing about gift giving is that it expresses what you think about the other person. Because I think you'll like this. Here's an object, a mass-produced object usually, that I found that is you. It's kind of cute. And it's like, I loved gift giving. I love gift giving. I think it's a wonderful practice. Someone's making money from this, and there's people that make special paper just to wrap the presents in. And it's things that we take for granted, I think, especially growing up in America, but they really are related to our media practices. I mean, the holidays are an incredibly mediated experience. I know when I was growing up, my mom would always be like, "Let's watch a Halloween movie," and we had VHS tapes. Or wow, that makes me sound old. We had VHS tapes of like Barney Halloween, or a compilation of Disney Halloween episodes, or like Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, things like that. And I remember really enjoying that part of it, like, oh, I get to watch those shows at this time of year. Maybe we should do a holiday episode. That might be fun.
Do a holiday
episode. I would like that. That is a very interesting point. And I love the like gifts for this kind of person or that, because it's like, here's the kind of people that are there. I have an enormously difficult time gift shopping for my dad. I think a lot of times when you see things that are like gifts for dad, it's a flask, but a lot of it has to do with alcohol or things that my dad has one glass of white wine and falls asleep. So it just doesn't fit that like archetype. I don't feel that I do either, but I've never been able to use those lists to shop for him because he doesn't fall into that dad category as neatly. It's the same as when I go on Amazon and see recommendations for you. It's based on what we know about you. Here's something you might need. We think you might have a mom and dad. We think you might celebrate Christmas. I don't have a barber. I just moved to New York City. I don't have a barber here yet. So my girlfriend cut my hair and it looked fine. It's still, now it's sort of styled. You can't really tell it was even cut, but she cut it and then she was looking at it and she said, "It looks like someone cut your hair." And I was thinking, okay, that's always been the case. My whole life, someone has cut my hair. But then I started thinking about how we talk about hair, and especially in sort of hair ads and hair products, they're talking often about natural strength or natural health of hair or the scalp or skin. The whole beauty industry really is talking about nature, or like what's natural. Like, this will make your hair look pleasant in a natural way. You are buying a product that was produced using significant resources and organization of manpower, human power. And there's frankly nothing natural about it. Natural hair is just letting it grow natural. It made me realize that the way that in my head I think about hair, when I think of the idea of hair, human hair, I think of human hair that is cut by scissors or a razor, that is controlled by a trained professional who went to a program or a school for 2-3 years to do this. And I am paying, this is a product, essentially. Except I got it for free because my girlfriend got it. But this is a product. And a lot of the things we buy that directly enhance us or change how we are sort of framed in the media around them, whether that's the text on the bottle or ads or how people talk about it, which are all related. It makes it seem as if this is how hair is naturally, in this sort of cared for, cut, product maintained state. And I think that's a really good example of what media has this incredible power to do, and that's naturalize. This was a big idea in the class that we took. We took a critical theory course at Georgetown together, which we'll get into. We'll talk a little more about ourselves as we go on, but I really want to get into this idea that media makes things seem inevitable or natural or common sense, but in reality, those things are often built on really, really complex material and social practices. And that's what we want to be looking at.
Yes.
So do you have any thoughts on that?
In terms of naturalizing, unless somebody really points it out or uncovers it, analyzes it, we can just go about our everyday lives and not think of the impact that it has.
Huge, yeah.
Like, I've been using shampoo and conditioner, like, since I was born. Like, they probably used it on me at the hospital. Like, that has just been a part of my life for 26 years.
Yeah, exactly. It's the It's a part of maintaining your personhood, I guess. It's a very powerful thing. Or making it seem like it's natural that we have nature out in the country or in national parks or wherever, and not nature. We have society. That's a division that seems so natural.
Mm-hmm.
It's all nature, really, but we've created these divisions. Anyways, I'm excited to talk about this. So you pitched the idea for this pod. We were talking about consumerism as entertainment. So my first thought with that, when I hear the words consumerism and entertainment, I immediately thought of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the MCU. It's a huge thing. I'm not even going to go into it. I'm going to assume we all know what it is. So thinking about how people talk about those movies and TV shows has been very insightful for me, because I think there is an increasing confusion in our sort of shared approach to the world. What is industrial activity and what is cultural activity? So by industry, I mean producing things, organizing people or resources, industrial activity. By culture is how we make meaning of things. It's a really tricky concept because it's misused a lot in our daily discourse. Offices talk about having a culture, or people talk about cancel culture. And essentially, when you know what culture means, these are nonsense ideas. Sorry, but they are. So culture at its most fundamental, the most important point I think I'm going to make today is that culture is not something we consume. It's something we do. Culture is it's like a fish in water. The fish doesn't know it's in water. People, we kind of know we're in this thing called culture, but we don't quite get how it impacts us or influences us. And with the MCU, it's pop culture, you could say. Pop culture sort of referring to all the mass-produced things that we can consume or engage with for entertainment, or things that enter popular discourse. MCU is big in pop culture. And I've noticed the way that people talk about it is very strange, because they will group the listener and themselves and the sort of fan community and the people that produce the media as us and them. And so they'll say things like, we are getting 6 new Marvel movies this year, 10 new Marvel shows this year. We are being given from somewhere these, and then we take these, and that's our culture. And we use icons like Captain America to demonstrate our virtues. Or we know archetypes. I think Iron Man is probably one of the other big ones. The most popular characters are essentially communicative devices or symbols that we can use with almost anyone. Mm-hmm. And because of that, it makes it seem like it's culture, but I actually would say that it's industry. So when you encounter something and you're thinking, is this a work of industry or is this a work of culture? I think the questions to ask are, who is giving this? Who is receiving this? Who is making money from this? And I think you'll find that usually someone's making money in some way. And I don't know that I have anything else to say on that, but people are making money. But culture in general isn't necessarily a profitable enterprise in many cases. Even if you go to a public park, there's still a trust that's probably funding that, and different foundations that get advertising in the park or something. It's not like money doesn't exist in any part of the world. But culture is something that we do together, and it's how we make meaning of the world around us. Culture is something that we do together every day, interacting with people on the street and with each other on FaceTime. So talking to strangers, people we care about, it's something that's accomplished and modified at the individual micro interaction level. It is not given to us by institutions with resources to produce spectacular CGI and jokes that will get the loudest average laugh. You can't pin it down like that. It's a lot harder to sort of get your head around and also to leverage for gain. I'd love to have an episode where we get into like, what exactly do people mean by culture?
especially since that's a keyword in our title, media culture, and why I feel like crying all the time.
Yeah.
So the mistake of industry for culture is why I feel like crying all the time.
When you think of Hollywood and big movies and
Yeah.
like Marvel, being an actor or a director or editor of those movies right now is like the highest way you can achieve being in the art world, because you are acting, you are creating, you are storytelling.
Mhm.
But in turn, like, that is industry. I don't even know if I have an end to this thought or even a question following this thought, but like, where is that shift from authentic culture to industry?
Right.
Like,
Right.
could we argue that Marvel is literally just the highest form of art?
It depends on your metrics, right?
Mhm.
Because if you're looking at how much money piece can make, yeah, it is top. Always competing with Avatar for some reason, which sorry, James Cameron, it wasn't very memorable. Maybe the second one will be better. One part of this discussion that we haven't explicitly pointed to is the role of mass media in this, because if you don't have the technology and the sort of material infrastructure in place to circulate things like a Marvel movie, you don't have the phenomenon that we see of we're getting this, we the people are getting more Marvel stuff. You have a point here, and I don't mean to push you to it. Your point of on ads is entertainment sounds very interesting, and I would love to hear what you mean by that. Because when I watch a football game or something, the ads are not the entertainment. Those are when I get up and I go do something. But I do see ads for entertainment out there. So what are you talking about?
At the most everyday basic level would be how influencers go about their everyday lives, and they talk about the hair product they used or what they're wearing that day, and they link the dress that they're wearing. On another level, it's funny that you mentioned sports, because during the Super Bowl, those ads are a thing to watch in themselves.
You're right.
And then on another level would be subbing in like ads for like propaganda, how the military uses the US American military uses American media as propaganda, and we are consuming that as entertainment, but it's propaganda. I'm thinking Top Gun, I'm thinking there's an episode of MasterChef.
MasterChef?
Yeah, like a cooking competition show. Yeah, they have one episode like per season where they go to a military base or they cook for American heroes. And like Gordon Ramsay is like, thank you so much for your service. And it's like, my dude, you're British.
It's not even
like,
American. Yeah. We fought you.
Yeah, literally. Even in Marvel. And then that also plays into the military does grant access to a lot of people who are not able to pursue an education or jobs. However, when they have such a heavy hand in our industries, but there also are military, how does that work?
Right. It's pretty extensive. You can find online all the films where the US military has been a producer or in some way funded or consulted. This is from Wikipedia, which I know is not a great source, but it's increasingly becoming the backbone of our entire global infrastructure. If you don't regularly donate to Wikipedia, I gave them $3 and they haven't stopped thanking me. So I think everyone should donate a little bit. Anyways, Air Force One, Apollo 13, Armageddon, Batman and Robin, Behind Enemy Lines, Black Hawk Down, Jurassic Park 3, The Karate Kid Part 2, King Kong, Last Action Hero, The Silence of the Lambs, critically acclaimed movie, Top Gun, Top Gun Maverick, Transformers 2007, great movie, I'll die on that hill, Transformers Revenge of the Fallen, even better, Transformers Dark of the Moon, a disappointment. The military was involved in all of them. Wonder Woman 1984, it's crazy. Like major Iron Man 2, major blockbusters that when you realize this, it makes sense because there is so much military action that even if it was just a consulting role, sure. But I'm pretty sure there was also money involved. So yeah, where's the line between, is it propaganda? Is parts of it propaganda? Where's that line?
Top Gun, they donated equipment and jets.
Wow.
And this has happened for other movies as well.
I bet.
But what is the effect of having real equipment versus like rinky-dink jets to make this movie?
It's fucking awesome. Have you seen Top Gun Maverick?
Oh my god, it's incredible.
I am
approaching this very critically, but I left
Right.
the movie being like, wow, I feel incredible.
Yeah. Exhilarated.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be a pilot.
I recently presented a paper about military saturation in American media, and I talked about Top Gun and how
the first one or Top Gun Maverick?
Mainly the second one, but I did talk about the first Top Gun.
Mm-hmm.
But in talking about Top Gun Maverick, I also talked about how Miles Teller was the white boy of the month on TikTok.
Yeah.
And how that one saturated the media, but also in turn, there were so many people be like, oh my god, they're so hot. And like, I remember seeing videos of like, oh, if you want a Miles Teller, just live in Northern Virginia, go to the bar, and they're like everywhere. An example that I used in my presentation was one person going to see Top Gun Maverick, and the caption was, if Top Gun is propaganda, why is Miles Teller hot?
That's funny.
And like that line of like, we are all watching these knowing that there is some military influence in them,
mm-hmm.
but it is so big. I remember I hadn't watched the first Top Gun until this year. I watched it the day before I went and saw Top Gun Maverick.
Mm-hmm.
And even my mother, who raised me, was like, you haven't seen it? And I was like, yeah, you never showed it to me. Like, what?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it's from what, 86 or something?
Yeah. And so, like...
Yeah, 86.
Where am I going with this? You can say that the military is marketing to us. They want us to think that military cool. And, like, there are so many political and social things that go with that. I talked a lot about how this is in the wake of years of asking for a defunding of the military and police. And now they have Top Gun Maverick. And it's like, oh my god, they're so hot. Like, that was so cool. And, like... I feel like that's a very simple analysis at this point in the game, but like we are still consuming these as entertainment.
Yeah, no, I think you are so right on with that. And you were saying it's like we kind of know. Even if you don't know the military is involved, you see the military and you know that like they're blowing shit up. You said it's bigger than that. I can anticipate seeing that sort of thing, even if that's not what I'm at the movie theater to see. There's going to be trailers for it. We consume it as entertainment. And then also they do have ads. And have you seen ads for like enlisting in the Army?
Yes.
They look very similar to Top Gun Maverick, like showing people doing really cool stuff or using cool machines. But I'm pretty sure from what I know with my experience as an Air Force brat, a lot being in the military is very boring and tedious and monotonous. And so it's not only is it advertising that we're consuming, it's also not exactly what it is that you're signing up for.
That line of fiction and real, like fantasy and being real. I think that also happens with like general ads of like Coca-Cola and their Super Bowl ads. Like, I personally love a Coke.
Oh, yeah.
But they exaggerate on realness to kind of border fantasy in order to market you a product. And I see it with celebrities. I see it with influencers of like, oh, buy this and we can twin.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to look like my favorite celebrity. I'm gonna look like my favorite influencer, and that's not the case. I
mean, people wear clothes with Coca-Cola on them or decorate their house with Coca-Cola stuff, and those are ads. It's very interesting point.
And then we can get into the whole like luxury side of things, but that can be a whole other episode.
I don't know much about like. All I know is that there is way more expensive stuff out there than the stuff I buy from the clearance rack. But I don't know much more because I see those stores like I don't know, Hugo Boss store or something.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks so different than, like, stores where you have a shopper with you.
Yeah.
I would just love to hear your take on the luxury goods world, because also this would be a very luxurious item in a different historical time,
Yes.
But now it's just a flannel because we can make anything and everything under the sun all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Which actually, I have a question for you on that point. So we have this practice that is pretty cool, I think, because like we've been saying, people are trying to sell us shit all the time. And I'm buying it a lot of the time. I like to buy stuff. I practice mindfulness and yoga. That should be a very non-profitable thing. But I have a statue right there that I paid for of a yogi, right? Like that, it's nice to have things that express you or feel like your clothes reflect who you are on the inside. Or if you have tattoos, it's cool because these things are around us. So I may as well use them to express myself, like get a pencil cup that I think fits how I want it to look or whatever. But all of that ties into our idea of having like a sense of being an individual or having an identity.
Mm-hmm.
So how did people express their individuality before that? Before you would be able to go get products or make something even using supplies that are readily available in the store. Before you could do that, before the materials were there, pre-industry, maybe even pre-society, how did people express their individuality? Did they even? What would they have done to express that same sort of need of inside getting it out when you don't have the stuff to buy that fits? Where else do you turn?
I feel like we need to get a sociologist or like a historian in here.
I know, like an anthropologist or something.
Yeah. So I'm going to answer your question with another question. And it's, do we now have more of an inclination to express ourselves because we are so online and we see so many people in a day, whether we see them in person or online?
Exactly. I think that's exactly what I was trying to get at, is I don't think that need to get like that, express yourself in that way. I don't know that it existed.
In the world of marketing, everything is a brand. You have brand colors, you have a font, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
I, at one point in my life, wanted to major in business administration in undergrad, and so I did pursue that path. And I was in a marketing class, and we were talking about branding, and then it evolved into how we brand ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And like being online and being a creator, I remember a couple months ago, a lot of people on my TikTok feed were talking about how if you want to go viral on TikTok or you want to have a following on TikTok, you need a niche interest and you need to market yourself. And you, as yourself, you're a brand.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't have to be. Like, we don't have to brand ourselves.
Right.
Yeah.
It's limiting. It can be. It really can be limiting, especially when you think of what are the components of a personal brand.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's, thankfully, a sort of broadening understanding of how gender relates to that. But before it, if you're branding yourself, you need to brand as a man or a woman.
Mm-hmm.
There's still a lot of people that feel that way, but there is more of an awareness that that's just we don't have to get into gender. I think there are people more qualified than me to talk about that. But yeah, it's like there's all these goods out there. And you touched on it exactly right. So there's still trends and there's things that are fashionable, or like, do people tend to wear more loose clothing, more whatever. But I think that the idea of like expressing the self through objects that we curate or collect, I think it's been exacerbated by the availability of because I can literally buy anything I want at any time in any color, almost. I'm going to read a quote for you. And this quote is Theodor Adorno and Max Horkheimer in their 1972 work, The Dialectic of Enlightenment. Little context for our listeners. These guys are from the Frankfurt School, which is a school of thinkers in Germany in the interwar era that were watching the rise of fascism in Germany and the specific role of the mass media in that rise. And so they studied propaganda, they studied political media, and they also studied emerging mediums like film and television and new advances in music production at the time. So they're media thinkers of the day. So this is from 1972. The public is catered for with a hierarchical range of mass-produced products of varying quality. And by quality, they don't mean good or bad. They mean the essence of it. What are the qualities, the colors, the textures of the thing? There are varying qualities in these things, thus advancing the rule of complete quantification. I don't know what they mean by that. Let's move on. Everybody must behave as if spontaneously in accordance with his previously determined and indexed level and choose the category of mass product turned out for his type. It's a process of selection almost. It's scanning, seeing what's out there, and then, oh, that's me. And that, that fits me. And that might even be an unconscious process, because if I'm buying a new water bottle and I walk in the water bottle aisle and I see a selection, I'll see, there's the ones that are the size that I want. And then I get down to how it appears. And that is a decision to be made when you buy something. There's lots of qualities of an object that are up in the air, but there's types, and they're produced for types of people. So they go on. Consumers appear as statistics on research organization charts, think marketing research, and are divided by income groups into red, green, and blue areas. The technique is that used for any type of propaganda. So cutting people up, cutting up the population, figuring out how those people might express themselves and giving that to them within the acceptable range so that the status quo is maintained.
I hate all of it.
Yeah, I know. This is like one of the more bleak. Welcome to the podcast, everybody.
Yeah. And this is why we feel like crying so much.
Right. That's why we feel like crying so much.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a flip side? Is there any other foot? It's like, yeah, that sucks. But
literally all I'm thinking is this is great for marketers and the industry. And in providing options for us, does that in turn help us in our identity?
That's a really good point. It might be like that. I feel that this expresses me in a way that I didn't know, and that in a way I might learn about myself. Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah.
I think that it can be enriching if it's approached in the right way. Because if it's expressing the self for the sake of others, as is often, a pressure, I think, especially as an adolescent, you want to, you care a lot what others think, and we all do to some degree, I think. But it almost comes back to self-actualization and being able to feel comfortable physically when it comes to clothes, or feel enriched by your environment by virtue of the objects there that, books or art or interesting tactile things, or just things that make you feel good.
Yeah.
Their existence, that can be really cool. But that's really different than when the act of buying something makes you feel good.
Yes.
Because sometimes it's just fun to get stuff, which I get. But that's a different sort of fulfillment than the curation I'm talking about. And this is all sitting on top of the fact that we live somewhere where we can afford to buy things and that are made by people who can't. So let's not gloss over that.
Yes.
But let's just keep in mind that we're all a part of this same system. We're all working to make the clock tick, and we're all kind of getting some shit for it sometimes. So how might we flip it on its head so that it doesn't feel like an iron cage and is more like an opportunity? But yeah, I'm not forgetting that, oh, right, there's a lot of impoverished people and a lot of people that don't even have somewhere to sleep.
Yes. And who have the same options presented to them, but do not have the means to participate in it.
Mm-hmm.
What is the point of having all of these options if not everybody can take part in it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then I know you just said, oh, like, let's put a positive spin on this, but my brain was thinking, like, do we really need to be surrounding ourselves with material goods in order to feel whole?
Right.
But then at the same time, I am looking at our backgrounds. And so for those who are listening and not watching, I have like a secretary desk behind me. I have a very neutral background right now.
Mm-hmm.
And 3 of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces that I have, I got at a flea market. And my desk upstairs is a white board from IKEA. And I absolutely hate that desk. I love this desk, hence why I am sitting in front of it for our podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And that just makes me feel better. And in terms of digital consumption, I have scrolled Pinterest for hours, curating boards and being like, no, that makes me feel good. I don't even have those things, and that makes me feel good because this is my vibe. And this is what I want. And then in turn, when I go out shopping, I'm like, oh, wait, I have this thing where I know what makes me feel good. Hence the writer's desk. And like, I got a navy blue sweater the other day that like comes down to my thighs. And I'm like, this has been on my Pinterest board for months.
Right.
And it makes me feel good.
Yeah. Let's take the wins where we can find them, right? Because I think that's important. Yeah, I agree with you because it's like, do I need anything outside of like myself, my community and basic needs? No, I don't. It's not a necessity, but it is there. And there is the social expectation that you engage with it. I think that materials, I don't know that I even have a point. I just like to buy stuff too. There are ways to go about it, like flea markets, thrift stores. There are so many, and thank you, Macklemore, for turning forward the hands of time on that. We should talk about like secondhand shopping at some point, I think, because in some ways it's such a middle finger to these kind of producing entities we're talking about, but in other ways it just makes more of them.
Yeah, and the economic and social practices behind that of who's thrifting and where's it actually going after it leaves the store?
That's a good, yeah. So I think that's sort of my points on my question of how did people express themselves before they could? And I don't think that they did. I also think that the sort of individualism that we deal with every day in America is very unique and not something that would be present for most people throughout most of history. You would be much more tied to your community and wanting to be a member of the community. And maybe that's me idealizing the past of it or idolizing it. But I think that the role of community and family was so important that, or the role of God or a religious doctrine was so important that it didn't matter. The individual expressing themselves would have been strange. It would have been maladaptive behavior because it's better to do what's good for the community or the tribe or whatever, the village, whatever organization you have. So my last point is that let's not forget that the individualism underscoring this is also not natural, but it is naturalized.
So today we talked a lot about how a lot of our media and media practices naturalize our behaviors and are just simply a part of our everyday function. Whether it be through ads on shampoos or military propaganda in popular media.
Yeah, we looked at the sort of the industry and the production side versus the consumption side and how those both rest on big structures of materials and organizations of people and power and money.
I really love how we were able to connect it to how we make meaning of ourselves and our surroundings, and also how we find identity in that, and how it doesn't have to be all that bad.
Yeah. Thanks for listening.
If you haven't already, you can check out the other 2 premiere episodes now. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Media, Culture, and Why Pod, where you can message us or answer the questions from the episode. Bye!